Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another rules breakdown. This time we're going to be looking at Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, which came out from Games Designers Workshop in 1990, and is very much an offshoot of Twilight 2000. So this video will be very similar to the Twilight 2000 rules breakdown I did a number of years ago, but hopefully this video should be a lot clearer, because in the meantime I have games mastered Twilight 2000 a number of times, so I'm far more familiar with the rules. Now, I can understand why they use the Twilight 2000 rule set, because Twilight 2000 and Cadillac and Dinosaurs are both post-apocalyptic games. The apocalypse of Twilight 2000 obviously is the Twilight War, a nuclear exchange between the United States and Russia, which leads to the players wandering around a nuclear-ravaged wasteland. But in Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, it's an environmental disaster. And in the 450 years since that disaster, the world has reshaped itself and become a much more lush and verdant version of itself. And life forms from throughout Earth's history have reappeared from prehistoric times. So giant mammals and, of course, the dinosaurs of the title. So, as usual, I'll need a character. So I'm going to use this sample character that they've included in the rules. The first one, Cliff Stockwell, a male career manager. And that's what we'll go to whenever we're going to roll dice. Anyway, let's get along and look at the rules of Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. So first up, skills. Well, these are dealt with on page 38 of the rules. So if we skip forward to there. And it's skills and task resolution. But basically it's built down into three difficulties. You've got difficult, average, or easy. And it depends on what skill you're using and which difficulty is what you're rolling against. So this character, Cliff Stockwell, is trying to fish. Now, if it's an average difficulty, he's rolling his dice, 1d10, against a target number of 2. And if he gets lower than it, he succeeds. If it's difficult, then he's halving that, so he's rolling against a difficulty of 1. And only if he gets a 1 will he succeed. Or if it's easy, he'll be doubling his skill, so he'll be rolling against a target number of 4. So anything less than a 4 will succeed. And obviously he's got other things, so if he's trying persuasion or bargaining and it's an easy target number, well, he won't be able to fail because he'll be rolling 1d10 against a target number of 12. Anyway, let's try the fishing. It's easy. He's next to a nice little stream. He's got some equipment. He's going to go fishing. So he rolls his 1d10. He's trying to get a 4 or less. And what do we get? We get a 1. So he succeeds. And initiative. Well, this is dealt with on page 60 of the rules. So if we skip forward to there, we've got actions. And basically, we have each character has their own initiative. This character has an initiative of 3. And we detail it. A typical turn proceeds. Phase 6. So anybody who's got an initiative of 6 gets to go. Then in phase 5, anyone who's got an initiative of 5 or 6 gets to go. Phase 4, anyone with 4, 5 or 6 gets to go. Phase 3, 3, 4 or 5 gets to go. And so on down to phase 1 when everybody gets to go. So the higher initiative you've got, the faster you go, and you go repeatedly before people go below you. Except when it's your turn, you go first. So in phase 5, it's people who go in 5 and then 6. In 4, it's 4, 5 and 6. So people in 6 get 1 action before people in 5, but they get 2 actions before people in 4. And so on and so forth. In phase 1, everybody gets to go in the order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so combat, well, it's going to be an ordinary skill roll. So we look at the character sheet, and we can see this character has a small arms of 3. And depending on the range of his weapon, you either are at close range, which is double your skill, medium range, which is your skill, long range, which is half your skill, or extreme range, which is a quarter of your skill. So his skill is 3. So close range is he's rolling under a 6, medium range of 3, long range of 2, extreme range of 1. But what's the range of his weapon? So we've got a .3006 is his weapon, and if we go back into the combat or the weapons section, There it is, the .3006, and it has a range of 75. So anything up to 75 is close range, so double is skill. 75 to 150 is just his skill. 150 to 225 is half his skill, and beyond that is only a quarter of his skill. Now if we go back to the rules section on page 64, we can see there's a few other things. Hit procedure, including marksmanship. If you spend a round or an action aiming before you fire, you get to use your skill as standard. However, if you're doing a snapshot and don't take an action for aiming, then you are only using half your skill. So it gets far more difficult to hit things. And we have various modifiers further on. So we've got movement and fire, target movement. So if you're trying to hit a target, they're moving 30 meters or more in the current phase, it's treated as one range band further away for the purposes of hit determination. So it's harder to hit moving targets, and there's things like smoke and all that which make modifiers as well. So you've rolled to hit and presumably hit. Now you're doing damage. Well, the first thing you need to do is see where you've hit. Now, if we go into page 70, we see the procedure. So damage, gunshot wounds. First thing we need to do is the hit location. Roll 1d10 and determine it on the table on page 132. So we go all the way to page 132. And we roll our 1d10. And we get a 9. So we've hit in the left leg. Going back to page 70, we can see that the next stage it brings in is the weapon damage, but there's also target protection, and I'll deal that while we're here. So we've hit in the leg, but if that person stood behind a waist-high wall, for example, then the bullet will hit the wall instead. So they will get armor ratings. Now, if it's a thin wall, a plaster inside wall or whatever, then the bullet will probably penetrate it, but they will get a point of armor off it, and will be using the armor piercing rating of the weapon to see how easily it goes through. But if it's something far more solid like a brick wall, then perhaps the bullet doesn't go through at all. Anyway, we're now looking for the weapon damage. So if we go back all the way to the weapon, the .306 does 4 dice of damage, so we're going to be rolling 4d6 for that. However, at this point we should note that auto-fire exists. So if we go on a couple of pages to the submachine gun, the Uzi, we can see that it has a rate of fire of 5, and it can do 2 bursts. So it can fire up to 10 rounds. Now, if we're doing that, then we're rolling 10d6 for the 10 rounds we're firing. And we throw, and every 6 which comes up is a hit, and in that case, none. So the spray has gone wild. But if the weapon was to get multiple 6s, then you would be doing the damage of the weapon. In the Uzi it's only 1 point, but if you're doing a heavier weapon like the M16 here, which can do 3 bursts of 3 with damage of 2, if 3 rounds hit, then you're doing 3 times 2, you're doing 6 dice of damage. But anyway, we were just rolling damage for the .306, so we clear, and it's 4d6, so we're throwing that, and we have done 18 points of damage. And while we're here, might as well notice the penetration. So the .306 has a penetration of 230. So if the penetration of the weapon is 2, it will go through 2 points of armor. So if you've got armor worth 3 points, then the penetration goes through 2 of that, leaving 1. And whatever armor is left is how much the damage is reduced by. So, with a weapon with no penetration against 3 armor, the 4 damage would become a single dice of damage. But with a penetration going through 2 points of it, for example, then we'll be left with 1 point of armor. So it would reduce the damage from 4 to 3. So we've done 18 points of damage, but what does that actually mean? Well, if we look at the character sheets, we can see the characters have hit capacities. This character has 14 in the head, 42 in the chest, 28 in the arms, legs, and abdomen. But these are not hit points like Dungeons and Dragons, where if you exceed them, you are killed or you go down. What we need to do first is factor in a few other things. So we need to go to page 71. So, first up, we've got wound effects. A killing wound. If a gunshot wound, fragmentation wound, or armed melee blow hits a character or animal's head or chest, there is a chance the wound instantly kills the character or creature. Roll 1d10 and any result equal to or less than the damage value of the weapon as modified by armor or cover kills the character. So for the rifle we've been looking at, that's 4. So you're rolling a d10, and if you get 4, 3, 2, or a 1, the person or creature are killed outright if you hit them in the head or chest. However, if you hit somebody in the head and they're wearing a helmet with 2 points of armor, for example, then that would be reduced down to 2. So the 4 is reduced down to 2, and you need to roll a 2 or a 1 to kill them outright. We've also got knockdown. If the character suffers more points of damage in a combat phase than current agility, they are knocked down and may not conduct any other action for the rest of the current turn. So we've done 18. The character's agility is 5, so they are knocked down and they can't act for the rest of the turn. We've also got stun. Any damage to the head, including burn damage, has a chance of stunning the character. To avoid stun, roll 1d6 and add the damage suffered from the wound. The result is equal to or less than the character's constitution. They're unaffected. If it's greater than his constitution, he's stunned and remains unconscious for a number of combat turns equal to the amount total exceeded constitution. So we've got 18, we roll a d6 and add 3, so we've got 21 there. Constitution is 7, so they are unconscious for 14 rounds if they were hit in the head. Now finally, we come to wound severity. So, 3 levels of wound severity are slight, serious, and critical. If one of the character's body parts has taken damage less than or equal to its hit capacity, it is slightly wounded. So, up to 14 points in the head is a slight wound for this character. If it's taken more damage than its hit capacity, but less than or equal to twice its capacity, it's seriously wounded. So, 28 points in the head for this character. And then we've got, if it's taken damage in excess of twice its hit capacity, it is critically wounded. So anything over 28, basically. Slight wounds. A slight wound causes an immediate reduction in the character's initiative by 1. They never suffer more than 1 initiative reduction for slight wounds, regardless of how many they suffer. Slight wounds have no other effect. Serious wounds. A serious wound reduces the character's effective strength by half, and reduction of their character's initiative by 2, total of 3 including slight. A character never suffers more than 1 initiative reduction for serious wounds, regardless of how many wounds he suffers. Characters whose initiative ratings are reduced to 0 or less may not take any further actions during this combat. So this character has initiative of 3. So if they receive a serious wound in one arm and a slight wound in the other, then their initiative will be reduced to 0. So they'd be out of the combat anyway, even though they haven't been killed by the damage. And finally, we've got critical wounds. Critical head injury immediately causes death. Critical injuries to other body parts cause immediate loss of consciousness and require medical attention within 10 minutes, so the character will die from loss of blood. And on the following page, we've got recovery. So we've got first aid, stabilizing critical wounds, moving the wounded, and basic healing rates all detailed in there to allow the characters to heal up or be bandaged in between combats. And advancement. Well, if we go back to page 40, we can see the game uses experience. And it's as simple as converting your experience points into bonuses. So if you are increasing your fishing skill to 3, then you spend 3 experience on it. And it's only skills which can be increased. You cannot increase your attributes. So you're stuck with those. However, there's options here for initiative. If the Games Master thinks that you have done particularly well in a combat, you might get a bonus point of initiative without spending any experience on it. And there's also rules here for advancing your skills by observation, advancing them by instruction, and learning new skills. Obviously, you've got a skill level of 0, so it costs you a single experience point to learn a new skill. So, that is Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. As I said, the rules are very, very similar to Twilight 2000. There's some of the more complex rules which have been dropped to streamline them slightly, which makes a lot of sense, because this really shouldn't be a game of massive amounts of combat in the detail that Twilight 2000 goes to. And to tell the truth, the rules don't make as much sense in Cadillacs and Dinosaurs as they do in Twilight 2000, especially the burst fire rules. In Twilight 2000, it's a really, really good idea to make firing bursts so tempting to players, because ammunition is so rare, that the massive bonus you get for firing large amounts of bullets and doing massive damage to take an opponent out quickly is really, really tempting. But you've got to balance that with the scarcity of ammunition. Whereas in Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, I don't feel that ammunition should be as rare. It should be a bit more common. So you're going to find yourself using those bursts rules more often. But having those bursts doing massive damage when you're up against dinosaurs does make some sense. But it just feels a little over-complex for what should be a fun, fast action game. Just making a very complex rule system for the combat. But anyway, as usual, I think I've been wittering on for quite long enough. So thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.